Easy Brave Homeschool. If you're new here, my name is Ashley and I am a homeschool mom to a third grader and a kindergartner. We are a Charlotte Mason inspired homeschool. I tend to put together my own curricula based on other curriculum, and then I tend to just kind of tweak things to make them my own. And you're going to get a sense of that in this video for sure. So this video is to basically alert you guys to the fact that I finally came out with a McGuffey Primer daily lesson checklist that I have had a few requests for since shooting a video with a schedule on how to use the McGuffey's Eclectic Primer months ago. I mean, I think we're talking back in like October or November of last year is when I shot that video. And then I recently launched my Etsy shop. And so I'm finally ready to add my McGuffey Primer lesson checklist to it. So this is available on my Etsy shop, which I will link in the description box. This is a 4-day schedule that I'm going to go over with you in this video, which is really going to give you also just a great breakdown on how to implement the McGuffey reader in your homeschool. I'm trying to think like how far I want to take this today. I think that I am just going to go over the schedule with you guys for the Eclectic Primer. I'm not going to talk about any of the other McGuffeys. This series does go, I believe, to book 6. And so we're not going to go that far. I'm really just going to go over how to use this schedule to teach a beginning reader. I should also mention that I am not currently using this in my homeschool. I did use this to teach my third grader how to read. It was very effective. I didn't use it alone. I had other resources that I think played a big part in her learning to read. She's a very proficient reader now. But I am planning to use this with my son when he's ready. He is just in the beginning. He's in kindergarten. He'll be 6 in November, and he is just starting to blend CVC words. So we are using a different program for him. And if you're curious about what we're doing, let me know in the comments. I'll let you know. But when he is ready, probably in 1st grade, is when I plan to introduce this. I actually have sort of a bridge plan in between what he's doing now and the primer. Even though this is the first book and it does start out very simple, I'll just show you like the first lesson. So it gives you the alphabet, upper and lowercase, and then lesson 1 is just 2 sentences with a cat and a rat. It quickly goes from 2 sentences to 4 sentences in lessons 2 and 3. And then in lesson 4, you're still doing CVC words, but then in lesson 5, it gets much longer. This is a review lesson. So I'm just giving you an idea of how it does kind of quickly progress. Like in lesson 7, you're getting into a 4-letter words. And then the next lesson after that is a 5-letter word. And there's a lot of punctuation. There's a lot of expression in these books with exclamation points and question marks. And then look at lesson 10 review here. This is quite long. So obviously you don't need to do these lessons in one sitting. And actually, the cool thing about my schedule is that it breaks one lesson down into 4 days of study. Even those really short, simple ones. And I'm going to show you why. So essentially just personally speaking, I don't want to use this until he is reading a little bit more comfortably. I wouldn't take him from decoding right into this. I think that there needs to be a little bit more proficiency to start using the primer. The decoding should already be like very much underway in my opinion. So I did make a video really similar to this back in like October of last year, but I was just in the beginning of trying out this system. And while I'm not using this system currently with either of my students, I do feel just like that much more confident in how the week looks. And I love this system so much, and I'm basically doing something really similar to this with my daughter, but using different literature. And so I wanted to update you with a new video that's very similar to the old one, but with an updated schedule and just a little bit more confidence. I want to just show you real quick a few of the resources that we're going to be talking about. So there are very few things you need to do a cohesive, very holistic language arts approach with the McGuffey. You need this book. This is a hardcover. They also sell them soft cover on Amazon. This, I believe, I got from Thrift Books. You can get them on eBay. You can get the entire set on eBay, I believe, but they're also on Amazon. You can also find them for free online under the Project Gutenberg website because this is in the public domain. So you can even print it off, which I did with my daughter. I printed this book and bound it myself because then I didn't feel bad about writing it up and like writing a lot of notes in it. That's actually a great option. You need this book. You will want a schedule, something that helps you break down all the little components into roughly 4 days. You will need some kind of notebook. So honestly, this doesn't have to be fancy. You can use just a normal spiral bound notebook from the store. But the only thing that I think you should keep in mind is that you will want, most likely, unless your kindergartner or first grader is writing very well, you're going to want some wider lines. So I bought these pages from the land of Kakiak. She has a lot of McGuffey resources. She even has workbooks that have the lessons laid out for you for copy work and tracing and the words that you're going to be reviewing. So if you don't want such a DIY approach like I'm doing, you can literally find the lessons laid out for you at Land of Kakiak on her Etsy shop. This is just my preferred method. I printed off her pages and change the cover, put them, reorganize them into a way that I prefer. Now, this is my daughter's. I'm not going to give you a flip through of what the pages would look like in the primer because I just don't have it right now. This is my daughter's for the way we do language arts for her, but it's essentially the same pages. So I will show you what those pages look like. I just don't have them laid out the way that the lesson goes in these. So you're going to need some kind of a notebook with wider lines. You are going to, oh, and I'll also point out, you could get the School Nest notebook. These have, you'll see here, these have the wide lines. The only thing is that one side is gridded and the other side has that room for a picture. This would work really well for one of the things you're going to do with the McGuffey, which is narration. But you may not want to waste all of this space here for these pages if you're not drawing, if you're just doing copy work and spelling. So I'm just saying that like something like this could work. So many things could work. It's just paper. It's just paper. It doesn't need to be too fancy. Oh, and then you will need some kind of like chalkboard or whiteboard. We have several whiteboards. I like this one for beginning readers because it's from Jack and Link. It's a little fancier. It has a really nice fiberglass top and really nice wood. And then it has this like syllable sectioner so you can break up words. So I like this. It's cool, but it's not necessary. You can just use a regular whiteboard. You will also want some flashcards. You can easily make your own phonogram cards. By phonograms, I mean like something like this where it's not just the letters, but it's like, these are probably all letters in this stack. I didn't bring them all out with me, but it would be like vowel teams, consonant blends like CK, SH, IGH, things like that. You will want something like that if you're going to use this method for teaching reading. But you can make your own. I'm sure there are free resources for phonogram cards online. I get mine from Mont Media. I really like these because they're large and they tell you all of the rules on the back. They also give you exceptions to the rule. So I just prefer them because they're large. You are also going to want some kind of, okay, so actually here's where I'll back up. You do not necessarily need a movable alphabet for your McGuffey lessons. I find that the movable alphabet comes in really handy when we are working on spelling, and it's a very Charlotte Mason approach to use alphabet pieces for word building, rhyming, spelling, decoding. So it's a very phonics-based approach to have that alphabet. You don't necessarily need it for the McGuffey lessons, especially if you're working with like a pretty strong speller and a strong reader. But even still, my daughter's in 3rd grade, and I still pull this out from time to time. So this is it's called Montessori and Me is the one I have. It has these lines on the cover, on the lid, and it's a very large wooden alphabet. You will also want, probably not so much in the primer unless you want to start teaching your child how to look up words in a dictionary. The pocket dictionary, this has become a big part of our language arts lessons because I'm teaching my daughter the skill of looking up words. These words are really simple in here, but you may just want to start introducing that skill to your child, even for simple words. So having a dictionary, I think, is a good thing. 3 other resources. If you are not super confident in grammar teaching, you will want some kind of grammar resource. And this is where I mean, like, you can literally do all of your language arts in just a book. I mean, just any book. It does not have to be the McGuffey. I just happen to love the McGuffey. But you can do grammar lessons out of any book. You just need to obviously know what you're talking about. So I love these bookmarks also from Land of Kakiak. I've talked about these before. These are great because they're bookmarks. They fit into a book. You can literally keep the bookmark in your McGuffey or whatever you're using. And this has tons of stuff, phonemic awareness, paragraph editing and writing, comprehension check-in, sentence editing. A lot of bookmarks you don't necessarily need for this. The one that I would use is the grammar check-in. So this has things like find a possessive S, find a plural S, find a pronoun, find a proper noun, find a verb, things like that. So that is just a great way to cover your grammar for the day, especially in these younger years where honestly, it's not even necessary unless it's really important to you to start teaching grammar early on. 2 other resources that I like having on hand is this Junior Illustrated Grammar and Punctuation book from Usborne. You could treat this kind of like the grammar check-in, especially if you don't remember, some of the parts of speech, which I didn't. But if you need to review on what is a pronoun, proper nouns, when commas are used, things like that, a short guide to spelling, there's a lot in here. This can be really nice if you don't want to buy a grammar program, you just want to conquer your grammar in whatever book you're reading. This is a great resource because you really don't need to buy a grammar program. And then the other newer resource I got this year, from a viewer's recommendation, the ABCs and all their tricks, the complete reference book of phonics and spelling. Now I did notice right away in the beginning, this book is like very heavily opinionated on taking a phonics-based approach to reading. I just kind of got that feeling. It didn't feel like there was a lot of room for sight word reading. Charlotte Mason was very much an advocate of both sight word reading, memorization, and phonics. while learning to read. This just to me felt like it was mad. Like, I don't know, the author seems kind of mad and just like really wants you to know that the phonics way is the way. But I really appreciate this reference book because it's basically an even more detailed breakdown of, say, the phonogram cards. So like it basically has the phonogram, for instance, OI, as in like point or noise, and it has all of these words that use that that vowel team. It's awesome. Like it's great, and it's not overwhelming. It gives you exactly what you need when you need it. You know, you would just flip to that page, that reference that you need. We haven't had to use this really yet because my son is still just kind of in the beginning of learning his most common sounds. Or he's not in the beginning of that. He has learned his most common sounds, but we are just working with those right now. But I'm happy to have this on hand. Okay, so that is kind of what you need. Now I'm going to flip this camera around and let's look at the schedule. All right, I'm going to try to keep the camera as still as I can here. I don't have a tripod. Okay, so the McGuffey Primer daily lesson checklist, as I said, this is a 4-day checklist. But I will say that when I used the eclectic primer with my daughter, some days we got through the lessons much quicker than others. The reason I've broken this down into 4 days is if you have a very new reader who needs 4 days to confidently read one of the lessons in this book. The whole goal for me, sorry, this book is like new, sort of. I mean, it's like newly printed, I think. The whole goal of this book for my second grader. So my daughter was in second grade when we started this. She was just a little late coming into reading. And this book, I just really owe for taking us all the way. But anyway, the whole goal for each lesson, and you'll see the lesson here, lesson 2, lesson 3, the whole goal was to have her reading this lesson confidently, smoothly, and with expression by the end of the 4 days. If she was able to do that before the 4 days were up, and if she was able to do some solid copy work, give a narration, do some grammar check-in with this, and a little spelling, then we would move on. Because there's really no use in sticking on the same lesson if the student has nailed it. Some of the lessons though, like say this lesson 5 review, this one might take 4 days because it's a little bit longer. Once you get a little bit deeper into the primer, you will see that some of the words start to get a little more complicated, like the word catch. We have night and shade. You see, even a little bit longer here, we have words like witch, skates, horse. And now you see even longer words like laugh, please, and you get the idea. Okay, there are in total 52 lessons in this book. Okay, this is better. I have it all propped up. Okay, so I'm going to go over how we use this daily checklist for lesson 8. All right, so the first thing you're gonna see, first of all, are Roman numerals. This is a great opportunity to start teaching your child Roman numerals. And then you will see a picture. Some people like to do a picture study with these books. My kids my daughter was not as interested in like studying the picture. But I do know that some families have a magnifying glass, and it's actually nice if you can use a magnifying glass and get really close up. But anyway, that hasn't really been an important part of the lesson for us. So you'll see underneath the picture these words. So these are meant to be spelling words. And I think it's because these might be more challenging. For instance, this is the second sound of S. Stand and lamp are slightly longer words than the pages before. Ands, you have a proper noun and a possessive S. So whenever you see the words at the top of the lesson, these are always meant to be the spelling words. And then you have the actual reading. Sorry about my nails. You have the actual reading underneath. Another way that these words are meant to be used is that before the student even does any of the reading, they are meant to read these words first. So you could also call these your vocabulary words. And if there was ever a word that maybe the child doesn't know, like say nag, that could be an opportunity to, start teaching some dictionary skills. Okay, so let's look at day 1. Try to keep this still. Review phonogram and word cards for respective lesson. So this is where you have the choice. You could either read the words from the book, or some people like to actually make flashcards of the words that are in the story and begin your lesson by flipping through those with the child. We did that, and my daughter seemed to like flashcards. She was totally cool with that. If you come to a lesson, like say lesson 9 with this CH or TCH, if this is a new sound for your child, this is where you might want to use one of your phonogram cards, or say a book that has the rules, the phonics rules, and go over that sound with your child if it's a new one. And it's that simple. You just introduce it, right? And then after that, you would have the student copy the spelling words in their notebook. So again, you can use any kind of notebook that you want, but I will show you what we do. So again, this is my daughter's 3rd grade companion notebook for language arts and her history narrations. So this is not going to look how a McGuffey student, a primer student's notebook will likely look. But what I do want to show you is this spelling page that I have used from one of the Land of Kakiak companion notebooks. So what you could do is you could put the lesson 8 with the date. You could put in any new phonogram. So let's say your child has not learned the second sound of S. Or let's say you're over here and you are teaching TCH for the first time. You could put those here, and then you would put the spelling words next to the new phonograms. And then I would use the rest of the list to actually write all of these down. Okay. And then if you were using a format like this, you would then have your student copy the word next to yours. So again, this is not what we're doing with my daughter. I would write the spelling words here with the new phonograms, and the student would copy them over here. So copy work is, in the Charlotte Mason method, a very effective approach to teaching spelling. All right, and then you, the teacher, are going to read the story first, not your student. It's really important that your student hears how the story is meant to be read. So you would read it with expression. See the lamp. It is on a mat. The mat is on the stand. The lamp is Nat's, and the mat is Anne's. You would read it just like that. And then your student will read it back. So this depends on how far along your student is with reading. And this is why I wouldn't introduce this to my son quite yet, because he is just starting to blend CVCs. This would be too difficult. Also, the whole point of the McGuffies is that they are learning to read a story with expression. If a child is still decoding, it will be too difficult for them to read with expression and very frustrating. So I really encourage you to not use this method until your child is reading a bit more smoothly. So the child would read the story after you. I don't require them to read it with expression the first time because it's brand new to them. If they do, that's great, but it's not important the first day. So then I would have already chosen a sentence to copy. I have this divided into my different, you can see, just to kind of give you an idea of how I really do all of my language arts in one. I have spelling, I have grammar, dictation, copy work, and narration. Okay, so again, you can use any kind of notebook, but Land of Kakiak does have these pages, and I do like that the lines are a little bigger. They're not too big. This is about where my daughter is at. These are pretty little. If you wanted something with bigger lines, I would maybe encourage you to find a different template. But anyway, I would have written the lines here. Okay, so I went ahead and chose a sentence from the lesson. I chose the first one. The thing with copywork is that not only do you want to pull copywork from meaningful literature, rich, beautiful literature, but you want to choose a sentence that maybe introduces new spelling or new punctuation, so that they're learning something new when they're doing the copywork. So I chose the first one because maybe your student has really yet to write with an exclamation point. So what I also do is, because I noticed with my daughter, her spacing with her words needed a lot of work. So to help her with that, I would take a highlighter, and I'll say that my writing is a little close together. I may not do it so close together if I was really doing a lesson here, but I would highlight underneath the words so that she knows how much room she has to write them. And this started working really, really well with her when I started doing that. Then the last thing that you would do is, if there were any new words that, again, the child didn't know, like maybe say the word nag, you could discuss them or look them up in the dictionary. And that's it. That is your entire language arts lesson for day 1. This will take you maybe 10 minutes. And if I'm being honest, that's how long it should take in early elementary. If you're doing this with a kindergartner, definitely it should be very short. If you're doing it with a first grader who's struggling to read, same thing. I did this with a second grader who was struggling to read, and it was perfect. We were covering grammar, spelling, handwriting, reading, vocabulary, and, narration we will hit. But we were covering all of those things in one lesson, and it really didn't take very long. And it just felt good. The lesson felt very cohesive and very holistic. Okay, so for day 2, you will want to review the spelling words. So again, you could have your child just read them from the book, or you can make flashcards and review those words. Then you want your child to read the story with expression. And before that, I would point out that there is an exclamation point here and that there's a comma here. So if they don't remember what those do, I would remind them before they read it. And if you need to read it first with expression again, that's great. You should do that. After the child reads it and you point out the punctuation, I would do a gentle spelling quiz. And then with whatever words they misspelled, that's when I would bring in the movable alphabet and do a little bit of a word building lesson. If they spell all of the words correctly, I would still do a little bit of work with the movable alphabet and do a phonics lesson, and I'll show you how in a second. But for the gentle spelling quiz, I don't believe Charlotte Mason was a proponent of spelling tests, although I could be wrong on that. So with a page like this, you likely would have already used this column, and so I guess you would maybe want to just go to a new page. Again, you can use any notebook you want, and you'll figure out your own format that you like. You could potentially use this all week for correcting spelling because you would have extra columns. But anyway, I would give him a simple spelling quiz on these words. And then let's say he spelled the word stand wrong. So I would then take the movable alphabet, and I would also have a whiteboard, some kind of whiteboard. And first I would have him build it. So while he's looking at the word, go ahead and build it. Or you could have him look at the word until he feels like he has a mental picture of it and ask him to build it without looking. That's fine too. So then after the child builds the word, then this is typically when I would have them do a mental snapshot of it because it's bigger. I would ask them to look at it until they can see it with their eyes closed. And then I would take it away. I would have him write it on his board, hopefully spelling it correctly. And then I would have him find it in the passage. Not up here, but I would have him find it in the passage. Something else that I like to do, if you do cut out and make flashcards of the words, put a pile of the words. Maybe you even do a pile of all the words that are in the story. I know it's more time intensive, but it is good for the child to find the word in a pile. Or maybe they have to find 3 stands in a pile of little flashcards. Okay, but let's say he spelled the word correctly and you still want to do a bit of a phonics lesson. You have stand, maybe have him build it without looking because he spelled it correctly. Okay, and then I would say, what happens if you take away the SC and you give it an H? And then the child would find the H and pronounce hand. What if you took away the H and gave it an L? Child finds the L, land. And then I would maybe say, can you find any words with the alphabet? And maybe so that he doesn't get frustrated, you pull a couple out. And maybe he does this for band. Or maybe you want to make it even more interesting and say, let's leave the A-N-D, but add a Y and spell candy. Or take away the C, add an S for Sandy. So this is what Charlotte Mason would call a spelling lesson or a phonics lesson, because you are word building and making all sorts of new words using the same phonics rules, that short A, to build new words. Okay, so the next thing after the spelling would be to copy work again. It's really important that you're doing copy work just about every day, especially if you're not doing a handwriting program. And you really don't even need a handwriting program because copy work, if you sit with your child while he's doing it, you can really guide him through the correct formation of the letters. I frankly am wishing I had just skipped the handwriting program altogether and just done copy work. But anyway, you would want to choose another sentence. So a sentence that uses one of the spelling words. The mat is on the stand is what I would do for day 2. He does the copy work. What I also kind of forgot to mention is that with the copy work, you want to point out what they did well and what they need to work on. I don't have my pens with me. I've started using 2 different colored pens. One pen is for good stuff and the other pen is for stuff he needs to work on. So once they write in, say, then I would have maybe a purple pen for my good stuff. And I always start with the good stuff. I'd say, oh, good, you capitalize the S. That looks really nice. Your letter spacing is really good. Oh, I see. I take my other colored pen and I would circle this and say, oh, it looks like your words are floating a little bit. And it looks like we forgot the exclamation point. This all looks fantastic, beautiful. I might even write beautiful. And then I would say, oh, looks like we did an uppercase A instead of a lowercase. And then I would say, oh, good job. You remembered your period at the end. And that's how, you know, that copy work is really effective. Okay, so then you want to narrate the story. And, you know, optional if they want to do a drawing. So as you'll see, my daughter does not like doing drawings and she is still orally narrating to me. So I write her narrations and she doesn't draw. that is her preference, and that's fine. But it is nice to have something like the School Nest notebook, or something that has a space for drawing if you do have a child who likes to draw. And then they would just tell you a little bit back about what that story was about. This is really simple, obviously, but it still requires comprehension. And so the child might say, there's a lamp that's on a mat, and the lamp is gnats, you know, or something like that. And then you would write it down for them. And that's day 2. For day 3, you might want to review your vocabulary words or flashcards. You would again have the child read the story with expression. The grammar check-in would be when you might bring in a resource like this, or a resource like this, or if I'm being honest, you guys, I have started using ChatGPT for my grammar lessons with my 3rd grader, and you could literally just ask ChatGPT, please give me grammar for a 1st or 2nd grader, and just use that as a grammar check-in. So for the story, I might say, can you point to a proper noun? And they might say ands. Can you point to a common noun? They might say lamp. Can you point to, if they know this, a verb or state of being? They might point to is. Can you find the comma? They point there. Can you find the exclamation point? How many periods are in this sentence? Why is Anne's name capitalized? Things like that. Okay, so that might be your grammar check-in. And then you would then do another copywork sentence. I would choose this one, the last one, and then discuss story elements. So the McGuffies do get far more interesting with their stories. These are really, really simple. So you could still do this though and discuss who is the main character in this story. They might say Nat and Anne. What is the setting of this story? And they might say, you know, you're doing a little picture study here. It looks like they're in a living room. What is the plot? What happened in the story? And they would say, oh, the story is about a lamp and that it's Nat's and that the mat is Anne's, you know. Okay, and then for day 4, if needed, day 4, you can continue reviewing flashcards. I like to use day 4 as an opportunity to start encouraging my student to read to themselves. And so maybe you do that on day 4. You could do that on any of the days, but I just have it here. Let's see, locate difficult spelling words in reading. So if there were any words here that they had struggled to spell during the spelling quiz day, I would have them look for them I would say, can you find the word lamp or whatever within the passage? Okay, so that's it. That's the 4-day schedule for using the McGuffey. You could use that schedule, I really believe, for any of the McGuffies. It wouldn't just have to be for the primer. But let me know, you guys, what you think. If you feel like I left anything out. I know there are some devoted McGuffey educators out there in their homeschool, and this is still sort of a new thing for us. We've only been really using this for a year. So let me know if there was any crucial piece that I left out, and any questions. Just find me in the comments. I'm really good at getting back to people there. I will link any of the resources I mentioned below so that you can find some of the stuff. And then I am planning to make a video on how I am continuing to teach my son reading using my own sort of DIY curriculum. So stay tuned for that video. Okay, thanks guys, and I will see you soon. Bye.